All right, so let's get started, everyone. Again, thanks for joining. My name is Michael Crud. I'm an account executive with District 360. I'm going to kind of set the stage here and kind of kick things off for the roundtable today. Again, really appreciate everyone joining. I know this is taking up valuable time, and we really hope to make this worthwhile for everyone. So we're going to break this up into three different segments, and then we're going to have Q&A at the end. So to kind of set the stage initially, I'm joined by my colleague Vino. Vino is our Director of Customer Success. She's going to kind of talk about the context generally with AI use policies in urban management specifically, right? And I think that's going to be a good transition for Sunil. Sunil is Vice President of Cube 84, which is District 360's parent company. He's a subject matter expert kind of internally for us on our AI policy. So Sunil's going to be talking a little bit, bigger picture for AI and organizations in general. So not just in particular for urban place management. If anyone doesn't follow Sunil on LinkedIn, he has really good information there. So definitely recommend following Sunil on LinkedIn. And then we're really lucky. Jacob and Amy from the Soto BIA are joining us today. So they're going to talk about, their experience at Soto. We actually worked together to build their AI policy. Jacob and Amy worked with Vino, so they have a few slides that they're going to run through. So without further ado, we're going to get started here. I will turn this over to Vino. Vino, please, I'll go ahead and mute myself.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Happy to share the stage once again with Amy and Jacob from the Sodo team. We worked together in drafting the first AI policy for the Sodo team there. They have been the with you. Let's talk through what are the popular AI prompts which have been used in the
Vino, I think we're having a hard time hearing you. Are you there, Vino?
Michael, I think she dropped. Yeah, she just joined back.
I'm sorry.
Idiot.
When everything has to be right, the technology glitches. Okay. So yeah, we were talking about, I was trying to talk about the popular AI prompts in the UPMO world. I'm sure few of this would ring a bell in you, especially the 311 services. What I hear is AI is being used by quite a few downtowns in sorting the 311 service request and making sure that they reach the right department. I also see that AI is a sought after tool in analyzing social media feedback, especially about city park improvements. So there are quite a number of social media platforms that the citizen can voice their opinions. And, there is quite an effort taken in sorting and summarizing these inputs. AI has been doing a good tool there. One recent example I hear is Fort Greene Park, New York, where there has been a very good improvement in removing the trees based on the the citizens' feedback. The citizens feel heard. So that's another win from AI world. And finally, on drafting responses for frequently asked questions regarding permits and regulations. I see that the downtowns are able to save time and are also able to bring in consistency by doing the process, enabling the process through AI. 20 to 30 staff hours per week is what I hear is the easy time save. That's huge. So thanks to AI, We can see that it's being used across the downtowns, quite, several use cases there. Moving on, let's see what the numbers talk about AI. And these numbers are specific to government agencies. 48% of state, 64% of federal agencies, and this data is from 2024. So even as of last year, we can see more than 50% of federal agencies are already using AI in their day-to-day. And the graph to the right talks about 73% just by Q3 of 2025. So a huge increase in the use of AI and almost in everyday use. And what are those uses? We just talked about traffic management, the infrastructure maintenance part of it, the emergency response especially, and cybersecurity seems to be catching up. The AI pioneers in the industry, I see and I read that this is Kansas City, Missouri. Again, this is about using 311, AI for 311, improving speed and efficiency there in routing it to the correct department. And San Diego, where they have an enhanced AI maturity in managing their cybersecurity. So what's the story here? The story is AI is there everywhere with us. So it's there, we recognize or we don't recognize it's there, a part of us, and we are using it in an everyday basis. We got to use it, so we better have the right way to use it. And that's where we should need, you can go on, Mike, to the next slide. And yeah, so we need to have the responsible guidelines towards using this AI, because we know AI is all generative. And on that note, I would like to hand this over to Sunil, who is our subject matter expert in drafting AI policy, and he can share the best practices in this world. Thank you. Over to you, Sunil.
Great, thanks for that, Vino. It's actually great to see how government agencies and organizations are already experimenting with AI. But here's the thing, right? Using AI is one thing, and using it responsibly and consistently is another. And that's where having a clear AI policy really matters, right? So before we even start writing your AI policy, there are a few important things to sort out first, right? And think of these as the foundation. If you were to skip them, your policy might look good on paper, but won't really work in real life, right? So these steps are really important. And I would start by asking yourself why you want an AI policy in the first place, right? Is it to help your team use AI more confidently, or to boost productivity, or to build trust with your community and donors, right? Once you know your why, decide where AI makes sense and where it doesn't, right? For example, you might be comfortable using AI for design, or even drafting reports, but not for donor communications without review, right? And the key is that your AI goals should always align with your mission and values. Next, take a look at what's already happening, right? Chances are that AI is already being used in small ways. Map all that out, right? Even the unofficial ones. And once you know what's happening, you can see the gaps, the risk, and what's actually working well. At the end of the day, you can manage what you don't know exist, right? So this step gives you a very clear picture, right? And then bring in the right mix of people. Uh, Mike, you can move to the next one. Right. Great. So after you draft it, right? You don't leave the AI policy to just have your IT team manage it, right? Include voices from communications, fundraising, HR, and your programs. everyone uses AI differently, right? And your policy should reflect how your organization really works. And it's also important that you need to decide who's going to own the policy, right? Who's going to review it, update it, and also make sure it's followed, right? When everyone feels part of the process, they are much more likely to follow it, right? And finally, take some time to talk about what really matters to your organization, right? What are your red lines? Maybe it's the data privacy or avoiding bias or even being transparent about how you use AI. And what principles guide the way you use technology, right? I always say let let your values lead the way, right? Because at the end of the day, your AI policy isn't just about technology, it's about protecting your integrity and staying true to your mission. So once you have done these four things, right, you're ready to actually start writing your AI policy. And a good AI policy doesn't have to be long or complicated. It just needs to be clear, practical, and true to who you are as an organization, right? So let me just give you a quick walkthrough of what a good AI policy should include. And the first section in that AI policy is the purpose and intent, right? And at this time, you already have done this thinking, and this is where you would actually put all those words inside the document, right? Keep it short and clear, and your purpose statement should connect AI use directly to your mission and values, right? And make it clear that your goal is responsible usage and not to restrict anyone. The next section is scope and applicability, right? And this section is really about setting boundaries as to who it applies to, what kinds of tools and activities fall under the policy, right? It's important that everyone knows whether the policy applies to them, so there is no confusion later. And be very specific about what counts as AI for your organization, right? Sometimes I've seen some people considering automation as AI. So it's important that you specify what you consider as AI, and that helps avoiding confusion later about which tools or situations are covered. The next section is about governance and oversight, right? Here, you decide who's responsible for maintaining the policy, maybe your IT head or the executive director or whoever that individual is. Set up a very simple review process for approving the new tools and decide how often the policy will be updated, right? And that way the document will be trusted and be current all the time. Next is acceptable and prohibited uses. This is where you would give practical guidance, right? List the examples of the acceptable uses. Things like things that align with your mission, or like generating donor letters or analyzing data trends, right? And be clear about what's off limits, like putting sensitive data into public AI tools or even using AI to create misleading content, right? A simple do's and don'ts table works great in this section. The next section is about data handling and privacy. Many of you may already know that privacy is the backbone of any AI policy. You need to spell out how your staff should handle data when using AI. No personal or donor information should ever go into the public tools unless it's approved. And this is how you protect trust, like both with your community and your team, right? The next section is really about putting your values into practice, right? It's about how we show up when we use AI. You need to encourage your teams to be fair, accurate, and transparent. Like if you use AI to draft content or create a report, just say so, right? And that honesty builds trust. And always remind people to double check what AI produces. Uh, the goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be thoughtful and responsible here. Right? Moving on to the next section, which is security and compliance. You can connect this with your existing security policies, right? Make sure tools are vetted and compliant with the data protection laws that apply to you, like GDPR or any equivalents, and also define how to report security issues if something goes wrong. And that clarity helps people to act quickly and confidently. Now, the next section is the most important one, right? Especially for nonprofits. Uh, a policy only works if people actually understand how to follow it, right? So include a section on training and capacity building that makes AI learning part of your culture, and keep it practical, right? So lay out how your organization will train staff on responsible AI use, maybe through short sessions or hands-on demos or even simple onboarding guide, right? And you don't need to turn everyone into an AI expert, but you do want everyone to feel confident using AI safely and ethically. Also, make it clear who's responsible for keeping that learning going, right? It could be IT, HR, or a small cross-functional team that tracks new AI tools and updates the training materials. Next is about monitoring, enforcement, and reporting. Like once the policy is live, ensure that it's not forgotten. Right? You need to decide how you'll track AI use. I've seen organizations using sophisticated softwares to do that, but you don't have to go that far, right? It could be a simple annual check-in or a short audit, right? Give your staff an easy, no fear way to raise concerns. This actually helps you to fix issues early and keeps everyone aligned. And finally, include a section on policy review and continuous improvement, right? This is this is what keeps your policy from gathering dust. Uh, as everyone knows, right, AI is evolving fast, so plan to revisit it regularly, maybe once or twice a year, right? And ask your teams for feedback. See what's working, what's not, and update it accordingly. Right? Now, your AI policy should actually grow with your organization, right? And not sit forgotten in a folder or a website. So, so these are a few sections that'll make your AI policy look simple, human, and practical, right? And it doesn't need to be perfect on day one. It just needs to reflect your mission, your values, and readiness to learn as you go, right? So with that, let me now invite the Sodo team to share how they went about creating their own AI policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Sunil. I'll introduce Jacob is the Economic Development Analyst at Soto BIA, and Amy is the Administrative Manager there. So Jacob and Amy will kind of take it from here.
Oh, thank you so much. We're happy to be here. So we really saw in our first off, we work in a small BIA serving an industrial district in South Seattle. And so we're a really small but mighty team. And we really saw, like, I think a lot of offices are seeing right now just a real big uptick in the use of AI. And that brought some questions up for us, like what are we doing around security, best use practices, and like what value are we getting out of it? And so at first we really looked at like, okay, well, how our team is about, 7 to 8 people. And so we started did a real simple tracking poll. It was like self-reporting about like, okay, how are you using AI? What tools are you using? For what purpose? And, how often? We looked at different publicly available AI use policies from just various organizations. Universities are pretty public with their AI use policies, some nonprofits and government orgs. And so that was a good jumping off point, as well as working with District 360, who helped, provide the framework that we could start filling in. We really quickly realized that we needed to make it super flexible and tailored to our specific use. And we've actually folded it. It is folded into our employee policy manual. Our employee policy also has a vehicle use policy section, so that, just like the AI, it's like it's just some guidelines to follow for, safe practices and staying aligned with our organization's values. Um, and yeah, we really did learn, like, oh God, we'll get to it in a later slide, but just learned a few things along the way. And it was kind of fun. It was a fun discussion to have with the District 360 team and amongst our office staff as well.
So one of the things that we kind of wanted to start off with, as well as researching existing policies with other types of organizations, we really wanted to kind of see, okay, well, where does this type of policy fit within our organization, or within our industry, rather? And so I went to the IDA forum and just kind of asked openly, we're kind of developing an AI policy right now. We're looking to kind of see if there are other organizations within our industry that are kind of thinking through this, if they've developed some type of policy of their own. Kind of, what did you include in it? What are things that our industry really needs to remember when developing this policy? And we were, I think, a little surprised that there were not too many organizations within our industry that were really diving into this type of policy work. And so that is actually when District 360 saw our post in the IDA forum and reached out to us and said, hey, this is really cool that you all are doing this. We would love to get involved. This is, kind of an ongoing conversation that we've been having on our side of things. And so that kind of was the launch point for the Soto partnership with District 360 with this AI policy. And then next slide, I'll have Amy, if you want to take.
Sorry. Okay. Let me refresh this 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that, Jacob.
No, all good.
And so when we started filling in the framework, we worked pretty closely with our executive director as well, just to make, like, double, triple check, like, make sure that, like, it was in line with what she was imagining. We looked at existing publicly available frameworks and policies. And just we put it in front of our team. We got some feedback from some other BIAs, and also the District 360 team was instrumental in going back and forth with this conversation. To my mind, the policy is very finished, but there is the the reality of making sure, especially because it's folded into our employee manual, that it is in line with everything legally, and that it doesn't conflict with anything else in our employee manual and policy, or any other policy that we have as an organization. And so, I don't know that it'll ever actually be finished, because it is meant to be flexible. These tools are changing all the time. How the data is potentially harvested from those tools is also changing all the time. And so just really approaching this as not a one and done procedure to draft this policy, but really understanding that it will need to change and need to be flexible.
So, kind of some of our key takeaways that we had with kind of doing this project, which I think Amy and I can both say we did not anticipate if you had asked us back in January about AI and AI policy. So it was kind of a fun surprise that was thrown our way. But one of the main things that we learned is that really there is no such thing as one standard AI policy. Even within the same industry, there are so many nuances to how people are using AI, how different offices are using AI. So it's really important to cater a policy to fit within your own organization and your own organization's goals. And then existing frameworks are, a great way to start. And so again, we had looked at universities and different public agencies, and that was definitely really helpful in kind of starting to brainstorm, okay, well, what would this look like within our context? And I think what we realized is that while they're a fantastic guide and a fantastic place to start, you really do have to customize it to your own organization. And then, like Amy said, AI changes faster than the wind. And so any policy has to kind of remain a living document. It has to be, specific enough to, you know, give an outline for your organization, but it also has to be flexible enough to change with the tides of AI as the technology, continues to advance. And then this last one, I think Amy and I both really kind of started to realize just how much we were using AI every day and not realizing it. I mean, anything from Grammarly, or when you talk to Siri, there are certain AI components to that. There are a million different ways that we've been using this type of intelligence over the past really decade, and it's just kind of now we're getting into the generative AI with like ChatGPT, Claude, and different programs like that. So I think it was really eye-opening when we were developing this policy and when we were asking our team to tell us what technologies they were using. We realized, wow, like we use every AI tool without even realizing it in our daily lives. So I think that was just a really kind of interesting, eye-opening experience for both of us. Yeah. So then, when you're kind of getting started, take a look at how your team is using AI, like Amy and I said, and kind of flag any concerns. Start small, create simple guidelines that are easy to follow for everyday use. And then talk to others kind of ongoing in the field, in the industry, kind of learn from each other. I think that Amy and I again learned a lot from just having conversations with others. Like it's already been said as well, reviewing a policy on a regular basis, again, once or twice a year, making sure that it remains a living document, making sure that it's constantly being updated. And then finally, like Sunil said, it doesn't have to be this crazy constitution looking policy document. It can be pretty straightforward. It can be pretty clear. I mean, Amy, I believe ours is 8 pages.
Yeah, it's pretty simple and straightforward. It's easy to read. We tried to put it in pretty plain language. We didn't want it to be too legalese or anything like that. And then we did, like Sunil mentioned, we did into the policy, we built in a review structure so that it's not just, oh, well, someone has to remember to review it. It's like, oh, no, it's actually part of the policy that we need to review it on an ongoing basis. And especially when we bring new AI tools into the fold.
All right, so I think this is where we're going to segue into kind of the last segment here, which is going to be Q&A. I hope that was thought-provoking for everyone. I think for me, I use AI, I think just a little bit more and more each day. I was kind of resistant at first, or hesitant, I guess maybe I'll say. And I think, we're all going to look back in a year from now and be really surprised how much more we're using it, than where we stand today. So I think this is really relevant. I hope it was thought provoking. I was sitting here thinking, gosh, I wonder if I'm compliant with our AI use policy. I I will circle back on that. So, anyways, I hope this was thought provoking for everyone. I'd like to thank all our speakers too. Vino, I think you did a great job of really setting the stage for everyone. Sunil, I think that what you provided in terms of information was really concrete. So I'll be able to share the deck with everyone afterwards, and you know, I think a lot of that work is really done for anyone here in terms of concrete steps and what actually goes into the policy. And then Jacob and Amy, we run into each other at IDA conferences, and so we really appreciate you joining today. They did that just out of the generosity of wanting to share information and share their findings. So I appreciate you being able to make this really specific for other UPMOs for bids and alliances, and we're happy to support the work that you're all doing. So I'd like to thank everyone, and we can move to Q&A. If anyone has questions, please maybe introduce yourself and just kind of tell us maybe what district you're located at, and maybe your title. That would be helpful as well. So. Does anyone have any questions? Maybe that's a place to start. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I think one thing that we didn't really go over is there's a specific part in the policy that I think everybody should really consider, which is that the outputs that come out of AI, you shouldn't 100% trust them. You really do need to continue to do the work and verify that if it's a data output, that data is correct. If it's some other kind of output, that it is actually correct. It is not especially these generative AIs, you shouldn't be just pulling the data, copying and pasting it. It should really be a tool for your work and not something that's just doing the work for you.
Doug Pruitt from downtown. I'm Director of Economic Development in downtown Dallas, Inc., and we're currently writing our AI policy. Another thing, we just, after I thought I had it finished, and by the way, thank you guys for displaying that I absolutely am about halfway through. But there's a lot of state laws that have just been enacted, at least here in Texas, and I'm sure around the country. New stuff is popping up every day on how we are allowed to use this. And our organizations are really, really broad. I mean, we cover everything from field operations all the way over to economic development and marketing. So everyone's using it for very, very different reasons. I like what you guys said about auditing or really polling people regularly to find out how they're using to help kind of, I don't want to say customize, but broaden the scope of this AI policy. And I don't know if getting a signature, twice a year from folks. Have you read this AI policy? When you follow it is completely necessary, but I do think it's something that we need to continue training on, just so we know the pitfalls of it. And I want to go ahead and dovetail on what she said prior to me. AI will straight up lie to you. It's happened to me already. I don't know if you guys heard about the issue with Deloitte and their paper they wrote for Australia, but it made up two sources, right? So it will straight up lie to you, and it will take it just as quickly as it will steal your data and throw it out to the public. So yeah, it's a fickle mistress, to say the least.
Yeah, anecdotally, I remember during grad school, I was kind of curious. Again, like Michael said, I was a little skeptical up until about a year ago of, relying on AI for too much. But I was just kind of curious how it would go. So I gave ChatGPT a law brief that I had to read for one of my classes, and I was like, I just want to see how it summarizes it. Completely incorrect. It was entirely wrong information. I realized when I, went back to kind of compare, I was like, oh, this isn't even the same geography. I don't know where this even came from. And that is one of the catches. It's great for brainstorming and certain data analysis. I use it to help with Excel in terms of formulas. That can be really helpful. But again, it is a tool. It is not at a point, I don't think yet, where it can do the work that a human being, can do in all respects.
And I want to again, I what I said earlier about our organizations being really broad. It's important that when we meet, when we get together and have our team meetings, that everybody knows what is confidential. So I'm in economic development. People in that meeting may not understand why tenant information or leases that are up in the air or buildings that might possibly be for sale is extremely confidential on my end, and do not repeat it outside this office, and don't put it in a chat GPT or whatever tool it is that we're allowing you to use right now. So and those are conversations that, quite frankly, we don't have often enough. So I think conveying to your teams what is confidential, what's information that has to stay out of these programs is very important.
Yeah, we're really committed to keeping our ratepayer contact information private. You know, they're paying a bill. They are not expecting that information to be shared out to anyone else. If it's publicly available online, that's fine. But yeah, you're totally correct that like you have to keep, you know, you have to keep the integrity of your organization whole. I will plug one good thing that AI does is you can enter two documents and say, you know, they could be 1,000-page documents and say, show me the differences between these so I don't have to spend time reading with a highlighter and stuff. So like there's just so many tools that like up until this last year I had not even conceived of like as a possible use, and that particular example I only learned about in the last 6 months, and I was like, oh, I guess that does make sense. And it's just about like how can it help, you know, aid your work without compromising your organization's integrity or your own professional integrity, and like how can you keep up with the best practices, and like keeping things confidential is super important.
And for us on our end at DDI, we decided to pick one, and we went with a Microsoft Copilot. It's one that no one uses, but it's already it's already integrated into all of our software anyway, and in our email. We think it's the easiest to keep tabs on as well. And then other than that, and this is going to be difficult to monitor, but it's you're forbidden from using other AIs. There will be specialty stuff for certain departments. Our public safety departments are reached out and said, hey, we want to use this tool, so we have to come up with, that's their responsibility to come up with specialty policies that will dovetail onto our overall policies for their users. But for the most part, we've said this is what you're allowed to use, and this is how you're going to use it. This is a product that we currently trust.
You know, that brings up a question I had, and I think I thought is there a difference privacy-wise between some of the paid premium version or maybe certain products versus others? And is that something maybe that you folks could be considering?
Exactly why we could, yeah. You basically you pay for their trust. Yeah, you're paying for AI silence and to keep your data private. Also, we've looked into larger organizations. I don't know if any UPMOs are doing this, but larger. My wife works for JP Morgan. I know it's a gigantic company, but they just wrote their own. And we're lucky enough we have access to Sri from District 360. He said, you know, as this becomes more common and as it becomes cheaper, you may want to consider writing your own, putting your own data into it. So people asking general company questions that you know, on my end, I don't know what's the apartment occupancy and for apartments in downtown Dallas, or how many go-karts do we have in our fleet, whatever it might be. You can ask that on the flight anytime. So it might be worth your while as this stuff scales and that kind of stuff gets cheaper. But currently, we are paying for Microsoft Copilot, so it keeps our information, especially our member information. Thank you for reminding me. Confidential.
Yeah, we briefly, just to tail off that, yeah, we briefly looked at kind of, okay, well, what would it look like if we wanted to have kind of a customized software for our internal use, and it is very expensive. So for a lot of smaller organizations, it's, you know, cost is quite a barrier, especially when it's a nonprofit. And so that's something, I think that's a good call out, is, you know, as it continues to advance, hopefully the cost starts to come down and more folks can kind of take advantage of that.
And
Yeah, at the end of the day, right, it's still talking to ChatGPT at the end of the day, right? So these large organizations have just built a wrapper around the ChatGPT or Gemini LLMs like that. So Yeah, it cannot be written from the scratch because it's a lot of work. It's going to take years and years of work. Uh, but at the end of the day, even if you're paying for the service, right, we have a policy where we've asked our employees not to use it for any data analysis, right? Because we need to have a better control over data, and that's a strict no to us, right? And I've seen organizations where they used upload data, but they anonymize the data before they do so. They have very strict policies. At some point, right, it's really hard to monitor what's being uploaded. So you need to constantly educate your employees about, hey, what's good to do, what's a strict no for the organization. That way, you protect the integrity.
Does anyone have any questions or any maybe insights or just general thoughts they'd like to share?
Hi, this is Stephanie. I'm with the Downtown Everett Association. I think this has been really informative. I appreciate the fact that the slide deck will be shared. And I was also wondering, could policy also be shared that you're working on for the SOTO group?
What do you think, Jacob? No, I can't anticipate a whole lot of trouble sharing that. I just need to clear it with our ED. And because it is technically still like in a draft form, yeah, but I don't personally have trouble with that, but I do need to get my boss's okay from that.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious to see what a 7 to 8 page policy looks like.
I will say we did put like a couple of like real world scenarios in there, like just like I'm a person who does very well with examples as opposed to just reading a policy. So we did put some of that in there. And like I said, we try to make it a little more human, but yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I'll circle back with the Soto team, Stephanie, and then I'll see what we can share with the group here, and we'll share what we can for sure. So
Okay, appreciate it because, examples are always good.
yep, definitely.
Agreed. Thank you.
I feel like an auctioneer here, like going once, going twice. Any more? Anyone have any insights? Any questions?
I have a question for Doug. So Doug, you're using the Microsoft Copilot. I've only used it a little bit, just, to help get some ideas on starting to write something in most cases. But we have people in other departments that might be using it for, need AI for graphics. Does Microsoft Copilot
Yeah,
handle graphics?
well, the pay model does. We're when we decided to use it, I went ahead and took liberty to I put all I'm a Gemini user at home, but I put Gemini, GPT, and Copilot up against each other. And to be honest, it's a little slower, but what's a couple seconds when we're talking about a couple seconds? But otherwise, the output's pretty similar on the graphic side. We found it does have that capability when you use the enterprise model. However, we found that the products that are already in Adobe, and by the way, it's within our policy that if it's just graphic, if it's just illustrations and what do they call it, adaptive graphics or putting people in or out of scenes, whatnot, that's fine. If it's already in Adobe, you can use that. So we've been using that quite regularly for signage and stuff. So I think the stuff to answer your question, yes, it can, but the stuff that's already entangled in the graphics packages is much better at it.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. Kind of goes back to kind of surveying your staff and seeing what they're using currently.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks who have been using their products for a while now, and they're not going to get off of them anytime soon.
All right. Anyone else have any contributions?
I would just throw out that Amy and I are happy to continue this conversation. If you have questions, if you want to get into more specifics, we can, or I think our emails are somewhere flying around in the presentation or otherwise. We're easy to find. Just look up Soto, and we're happy to continue that conversation. But yeah, thank you all. This was really cool.
Thanks for that, Jacob. We really appreciate that offer, and I'd like to throw out on the District 360 side too. We'd like to have these roundtables, even more often than we do. This is just a really good chance for us to have a forum where, folks in the space can come together and just bounce ideas off each other. And some are customers with us, and some are not. And we're just happy to be able to have that forum. So hopefully we'll be seeing more invitation emails from me in the future for these kind of roundtables. So we really are happy that you folks are all able to join. And in the future, please feel welcome to forward the messages to any of your teammates, or bring anyone along. We really appreciate it. So we'll follow up with recording and the deck and whatever materials we can in the coming days after this, probably into next week. But for now, we really appreciate everyone's time, and hope everyone has a great rest of their day and a great weekend, great long weekend. So
Thank
Great.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
everyone,
you.
take care. Bye.
Thank you.